What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in again. Today we are looking at the Holosun 403g optic, a nice 2 MOA red dot that is very lightweight, very compact, very versatile. You can see it sitting on top of my UTG Pro M70 rail and my M70 AK. We're going to do lots of shooting with this, lots of testing, and I think you'll see that this is quite a good optic for the money. Stick around for the review.
So as we take a closer look at the 403g mounted on top of my AK here, let's talk about some of the specifications, some of the things you can expect from this straight out of the box. It's parallax free, so there's no kind of wondering if your focus is wrong or whatever. The performance of this dot, I'd like to speak to that briefly. This is kind of a side note, but that is one of the sharpest red dots I've seen. It's really good. I remember shooting an Aimpoint T1 while I was down at SHOT Show and thinking that is the sharpest red dot I've ever seen. When I shot the Holosun, I was like, I'm not sure if I see a difference. Now, when I compare that to the Bushnell, we're getting kind of ahead here, but when I compare that to the Bushnell TRS 25, which has been a great red dot for a lot of uses, I definitely see an improvement, okay? Now, this is around $100. This is around $200. Now, if you want a sharper red dot, you're just going to have to pay more money. That's simply how it's going to work. And if you want this kind of a leap from that quality to this quality, $100 more is not hardly anything. Again, because Aimpoint T1, like I said before, one of the sharpest I'd ever seen, just about as sharp as I'd ever seen. And this rivals it very closely. I'd be hard pressed to see a difference. There's very little obstruction, okay? In the Bushnell, let's see if I can point it out here or not. I think I can. You see right here on this side, I gotta move my hand here so you can kind of see through it. Right over here, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of an obstruction there, all right? I think you can see what I'm talking about. It doesn't really impede your view badly, but it is a little bit annoying, and you wish that that were not there. On the Holosun, it's pretty much not there, and we're mounted on top of the AK here, and I don't want to remove it so I don't have to re-zero it or anything, but you do not have that kind of a thing. You've got a very slight obstruction there, but it's so low profile that it's nearly unnoticeable. In fact, I never really noticed it as I was using it, so it's well done. It's, again, very little as far as obstruction is concerned. The controls on it are great. Push button digital controls. You've got 12 brightness settings, and the lowest setting or the lowest settings will give you a 2 MOA dot, as they have claimed on there. On the site itself says 2 MOA. So you've got a 2 MOA dot on some of those lower settings. As you of course get brighter and brighter, then the dot gets necessarily bigger and bigger. But again, 2 MOA at those lower settings, so that's pretty outstanding and very sharp, as I mentioned before. It also, this is what I really love about this optic, has an auto wake and auto sleep sort of function to it. 8 hours after you stop using it, it goes to sleep, basically shuts off. Grab it again, turns right back on. You don't have to worry about is the red dot on. You know, you don't have to grab it and like, okay, what setting do I want it on? And you're turning to get to whatever setting, brightness level, and you're trying to reach that. No, it just turns on. You grab it and it's on. That is so freaking convenient. Number one, for battery life. Number two, for emergency use, right? If this is going to be some sort of a home defense or other tactical rifle, and you are faced with a situation sort of unexpectedly, you don't want to have to be messing around with things like turning this on, getting the brightness setting or whatever. You may have to adjust the brightness setting depending on your environment, but you don't have to think about turning it on. It's ready to go. It's on. That's great. It's fantastic. It's also got a 50,000 hour battery life when it's on setting 6. Okay, so that's like the middle setting. And so that's pretty darn bright. And if you're outdoors in the sun, pretty much halfway up is going to be bright enough from my experience. I don't think I've ever, if I have turned it all the way up, I usually turned it right back down because it was way too bright for my use. So, and that's in bright sunlight. So again, at like, halfway setting, you're going to have very good performance and very good battery performance. So that's fantastic. Another point worth talking about is that the Holosun optic has a limited lifetime manufacturer warranty from Holosun. If you have issues with this, you're going to be good. You're going to be covered. They'll take care of it. Also, it is IP67 waterproof rated. You could pretty much drop this in a bucket of water and it'll be just fine. It'll keep running. Have no problems. Now, in the previous version of the 403A, I think the battery compartment was underneath. I don't own that one, so I'm not positive about that. If I didn't say this already, Holosun did send me this optic to review. So the fact that they moved it to the side, it makes it really convenient. Also, if you can't twist that off with your fingers, you can easily get a coin in that little slot there, rotate that pretty easily. And we'll talk about these adjustment turrets real quick. Those have actually, a difference between this one and the 403A is that these ones have actually been raised up and made easier to get access to it with gloves on. So if you are wearing gloves and you don't want to have to take them off in order to make those adjustments, you can do that just fine as they are. You can also see very plainly that those turret caps have little screwdrivers right on there. See that? So you want to make your adjustments, you just turn the cap upside down. And check this out also. If you forget which way is which, it's got all that right there. Up or right, and it's got the arrow pointing which way to turn it. So you know what you're doing every time. And that fits into that little slot right there, and you can make those adjustments as needs be. We could talk a little more about the buttons on top of the optic. I found those really easy to use. They're tactile, you can feel them going up and down as you press on them. It's easy to locate which one's the minus, which one's the plus. And again, if you are running the gun and you don't want to look up at the plus and the minus to figure out which it is, just start pushing one of them and look at the dot. You'll know exactly which way you're going after a couple of presses. So just go the opposite way if that's not the way you want to go. As a comparison between the Holosun and the Bushnell, we could talk about sort of the profile. You see, because the battery compartment is there on the side, and that does not double as an adjustment or a brightness adjustment, it can be very, very flush against the side of the optic. Whereas this one protrudes quite a lot, not straight off the side, more like kind of, sort of diagonal. And it's fine, it works, but it's bigger. It's definitely a little bit bigger. Whereas this one, like I said before, is very, very flush, very, very tight against the side of that optic. Now, the Holosun 403G is definitely designed to be an aim point competitor. In fact, the 403G version of this, they've actually made mounts, the mount for this optic, compatible with the aim point T1 and H1. So what that means is, number one, if you have an A1 or an H1 or T1 or H1, then you can swap mounts back and forth. Also, if you're shopping for mounts, you don't have to necessarily find specific ones for Holosun. You can go out there and buy anything for a T1 and it'll work with this one. Now mine also came with a riser right here. So that would attach to the Picatinny. Then this mounts onto the optic itself. And I don't remember if this is a 1/3 co-witness or a full co-witness. but it does raise it up a good deal for an AR or something like that, where you need your sight raised up a little bit. Now, the diminutive size of a micro-style red dot like the Holosun 403g definitely lends itself to both the AK platform, probably shotguns, pistols, things like that. It'll work great on an AR as well, again, with the proper riser. But I love it on guns like this because it sits nice and low, or it has a potential to sit really low, which lines up perfectly with your eye and feels just great on a rifle like this one. Pistols would be great as well, like I said, and lots of other types of guns. Now, I love having options like this. Now, options like this one, the Vortex Strike Fire 2, are also really good. This is definitely one just for an AR or something around that height. And it's also quite a bit heavier, bulkier, thicker, just chunkier in general. But I'm so glad we have some nice micro-style red dots like this one. The Bushnell, once again, is pretty darn good, okay? And for the money, very good. 3 MOA. The dot on it is definitely not as sharp as the Holosun. And if you can afford the extra $100, I definitely recommend that you choose that Holosun. And especially if you're thinking, wow, I gotta have that aim point T1, you know? That's the industry standard, that's the Cadillac of micro red dots. I've gotta have that one. Come down a little bit and try this thing first, okay? $200, you're saving a ton of money. And I think you're really going to appreciate this and enjoy it.
So there are a lot of reasons why you'd want to consider the 403g as a red dot optic for your rifle. The price is pretty good. It's way better than any of those aim point optics. And it's very comparable construction from what I can tell. It seems very, very durable. It's also going to be more durable, most likely, than some of those more budget optics, such as the Bushnell TRS-25 and some of those other ones. So you get better quality for a bit more money, and really good quality for a lot less money. That's kind of how I look at it. You've also got some great tactile functionality on it. The tactile brightness right here and that sort of rubberized button, I really like that. I think it's great. So that's what I got for you. I think it's a great optic. I definitely recommend it. Thanks to Holosun, of course, for sending me this one to try out. I'm the Late Boy Scout. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see y'all later.
As you can see here, we have a few options of both current stuff that we offer, as well as some products that are upcoming in the next few months. Right here we have 403g. This is one of the first models that started off with us.